to the weekly sales masterclass at Juno School of Business. My name is Ronit, and today, as once again, every Saturday, would like to present with you another topic that will help you grow in your sales journey. Right? Before we deep dive into the topic and also introduce you the speaker, I would just like to take a minute and help you understand about Juno. So Juno is an edtech platform focused only on sales. Our goal on YouTube and social media is to create an environment for you where you can learn on a daily basis. The reason why we started was that we understood that there is a gap in sales learning. There was not a focused approach. So every day when you wake up and you want to learn something about sales, go to Juno's YouTube channel or LinkedIn page. I am pretty sure you'll take at least one thing away that will help you get 1% better every day, right? And this masterclass that we do, our aim is to enable you get connected to the speakers whom you don't get access to on a daily basis, right? So without further ado, I would like to start off the session. Would like to welcome Nidhi. Nidhi, thank you so much for accepting our invitation for the Juno Masterclass.
Thank you so much, Ronit. It's totally my pleasure. And I really appreciate everybody who's taken time out on a Saturday and in a winter Saturday. So
Yes,
really appreciate
yes,
it. Yeah.
definitely. So Nidhi, we would be doing the session and we'll let you start off with the session. But before that, let me just give a quick brief introduction about you, and then maybe you can deep dive into your introduction.
Sure.
So for everyone out there right now on the call as well as joining us live, so Nidhi is right now the group CEO at Blue Vector. She has been the head of brand marketing at JioSaavn, as well as the head of marketing and business development at Tata Advanced Systems and many other marquee brands. So today she'll be talking about effective business communication, right? I'll not waste any further time. We'll allow you to take over. So that's about it. And please do enjoy the session. Please do switch on your video so that we can make it more interactive. And any point of time you have any question, please do type in the chat or raise your hand. I can unmute you and you can ask the question to the speaker, right? Thank you so much. Nidhi, please take it over. I think you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I was not able to do that. Thank you so much, Ronit. Really appreciate that. And can you just enable okay, you have enabled my sharing screen as well. Let me just put this one up. All right. So firstly, yeah, really thank you. I would say that was a very effective introduction, if I can use that term. But yeah, once again, I think thank you everyone for taking out time. It's really, appreciated because it's a Saturday afternoon. And if you are somewhere in Delhi NCR, then you are chilling as well. So thank you everyone for taking time out. This is a very interesting topic. And, I haven't really, though communication has been a very, very major key driver throughout my career. From the very start, we have always been told that communication is the key to everything. And I think I've firmly believed in that throughout my career span. But I've never really spoken, gotten down into such a setup and spoken about it as to how I have been trying to use it in the most effective manner. And, what are the things that I really try to avoid on a day to day basis. So I think this will be a very interesting conversation. And, we are a few bunch of people today here. So if everybody can come on a camera, it will become very visually, interactive. And, just before I deep dive into anything about me or in general about the session, let's try to keep it very realistic. See, because the idea is whatever 50-55 minutes we have, the my aim is not to teach you effective communication, right? That's something I'm sure many of you know, or you will be progressing through, or, there is enough content available on the web around that. The idea would be to get into a conversation or be, have a more of a dialogue kind of a thing where you can probably ask me as many questions as you would want. And I can just help you understand as to, I've been in the industry for quite a long time. And what were the few things that I picked up as my ways to kind of, be very effectively communicatable, whether it's a written communication we're talking about, or it's a very one-on-one setup. So I think that's the context that I would like to set up that, please don't expect any kind of a teaching. I'm not here to teach you how to write an email, how to use chat GPT and stuff like that. It's a very, informal setup that we are in. And like I was mentioning you that, it's been almost 20 years. In fact, I'll be hitting 20 years in March. That's when I started my career in 2004. It's a very long career, guys, like a really long career in a way that now when I look back, I'm talking communication from the time when There were no WhatsApp, right? There was no chat GPTs or anything like that. I'm talking about a time when email communication, if you are in a formal setup, or let's say even if you are in informal setup, email communication used to be one of the primary modes of communication considered, right? Or the second would be if you are in a one-on-one setup, then largely supported by a presentation, or if you're having a one-on-one direct dialogue with somebody. Coming to the time where we have so many other mediums to communicate, right? WhatsApp becoming one of the primary mediums, and we obviously have phone access available as well. I mean, phone were there at that times, but mobile chatting and stuff was not so heavily introduced. People are today doing direct businesses purely on WhatsApp and stuff. So there has been a lot of evolution in terms of how I have evolved myself in terms of communicating, with individuals at any scale. Plus, being in the industry for so long and at different levels, and I started off my career with IT companies, and then I drifted towards the marketing side of the world. There has been communication across any layers that we can talk about. Whether you're talking to your peers, you're having a communication with the team that is working with you in an India setup or an offshore, market, because I was sometimes based outside of India, and you have to communicate with your teams remotely sitting, or it's very very senior management where you are probably representing your company and making something as a pitch or kind of sharing any kind of an information, to then coming to in the marketing world where whatever we do in communication, we have to really be very wary about. Maybe we are doing a communication for a brand in the market, we're sending out a message for a particular brand. So there are some of the things that I picked up over time. There is a chat. Okay, that's Ron, sorry. So that's been there, and like I said, internationally, when you have a diverse experience in international market, it also helps you understand the sensitivity of those regions and those countries, because the way probably we can communicate in India is probably not the same way we can communicate in, let's say, Dubai, Middle East, or it's in Australia, because everybody has a very different cultural sensitivity as to what are they, how are they communicating or talking to people. So that really helped me up as well. And then obviously working with brands, because you have to somewhere take the legacy, and there is a particular kind of a boundary or a messaging setup that a particular brand follows, and you have to live by it. So for example, when I was with Tata, maybe it's a very I was in a very niche cybersecurity, very serious B2B kind of a business, right? Now JioSaavn is a completely contrast world, and the company that I'm currently associated with, it's a very marketing and a creative oriented world. So there might be conversations which are much lighter in tone, or more realistic in terms of talking about something around music or very creative social media and stuff. So it all evolved. And obviously, I mean, in just on my personal side, I'm a lot of I'm a very passionate artist kind of a person. So writing is something that anyway I enjoy a lot. If you will be added to my LinkedIn, you will see I quite often post content, and that helps me be a very direct communicator to my audience. Ronnie, do you have your hands raised?
Yeah, Nidhi, if you can just, enable the full screen mode would be great for the audience.
Okay, I actually wanted to do a little exercise, but yeah, we'll come to that. Is it
Okay.
better now?
Yeah, yeah, better.
Okay, thank you. So guys, what will you learn today? I mean, like I've already set up the context, that I don't know with what expectations you kind of, enroll for this particular 1 hour session. But like I've already told that let's try to be, whatever I've just mentioned about my experience, let's try to be very realistic and, very communicative around. If you have any questions as to Nidhi, what really worked for you, or what is it that is working for you right now, or things that you did, sorry, things you did wrong, or something that you want your teams to be very wary about, or the younger generation, because they have a very different kind of a communication style. They're much more flexible and open in sharing their views and opinions, which was not something that when we were Gen Zs, when I was starting my career off, we were always in a very restricted environment in terms of what we can talk to our peers or our seniors. So all of is that is something that I'm putting on the table today for us to communicate. And as as informal and as open to conversation you guys will be, I think it will become more meaty for all of us. One of the things that I learned over a period of time, and it became, let's say, the holy grail of my understanding of whatever we communicate with, is that we usually talk about this sort of communication, that we say either we are into a B2B setup or we are into a B2C setup, which is like either you're talking at a very business to business communication, or you're talking to an individual or a customer in a B2C setup. And then there is another third layer we often mention is B2G, which is talking to a government official, right? Or in a very government setup. But eventually, if you look at it at any organizational setup you are in, or in that communication bracket you are actually talking to a person, right? It's a very, and this is the methodology that I picked up, that which I realized, at the very start of my career, that people do really need to interact with you at a very individual layer, because the first thing that they want to develop with you is trust, right? And for that, they have to really understand who you are as a person. They're not talking to in a very robotic manner. Even if you're writing them an email, people are really, very wary of that fact that they are talking to a human being, and there would be a very specific element that only you can bring to the table. So I think I very, at the start only, I started to, like, I realized that making myself stick to this thing, that it's a very business to business communication, and Nidhi as Mittal cannot be there, that flavor cannot be there, will not help me. And the same way, if I'm talking to a directly to a customer, and I do not add an element to how, who I am and what I can bring to that conversation, it will not help me. And over the period of time, there is a particular style that has become, which is very synonymous to me. The people who really know me beyond this 1 hour, and in my business setup or in my personal life, or where I spend more time, for a longer session or something, eventually they end up understanding that, okay, this is how Nidhi is, and this is the kind of, this is the way we would love to interact with her, and she is open for. So I think that was something which I have developed as part of my own persona. And that should be something very, very important for all of us to develop at any stage of our career. If we are studying, even for that matter, if we are at the first year of our jobs, or even 20 years of our jobs, wherever we are, if it becomes synonymous to that who you are as an individual, and this is your way of communicating, irrespective of whether you're communicating in a particular language, you're communicating through a particular medium. What I realized, that a lot of people used to consider not knowing English as a hindrance to their communication. That everybody expects that we should only be communicating in English. That is not the thing. If you have a very strong backed up information or knowledge that you're trying to put on the table, it's okay to even talk in Hindi, right? But we lose sometimes our confidence thinking that communication is equal to English language, which is not right. Right? It's just there is a particular set of information or a message. There is something that you have which you are wanting to deliver to somebody, and that should be very clearly reaching to that individual. Now, it could be in a particular language, it could be through a particular medium, but that is of more importance than you are not able to tell it in English. Right? Now, on the next slide, I wanted to do a little exercise with you guys, and that's why I had it in a non-slide mode, that to understand what is an effective communication, or just to know, in our own day-to-day life, what do you think? And we have around 42 people out here right now. What do you think are, like, let's say, the top one thing that's coming to your mind, or the top five things? I've listed five, which you think are completely something which is making the communication totally non-effective, right? So can you please help me? You can open up the mics if they are enabled, and you can just give me one word that comes to your mind, or you can put it in the chat box. Forget about the effective side of the world. What is it that you feel is totally non-effective? And you can tell to me in a way that you are a consumer. Let's say you are consuming somebody's communication. What are the things that they put you off? That this is not what I prefer, and this is something that really puts me off when somebody's communicating to me. Can you just help me get those five words here?
Yeah, people can raise their hand and I can unmute you, or you can type it in the chat.
Not able to set the context. Okay. Mr. Srinath has given that irrelevant information. I'll just take them as it is and put that here. Sorry, one sec. Oh, just got the whole one. Not able to set the context. So basically, there's no clarity. Irrelevant information. Yeah, extra information or irrelevant information is coming. And no clarity, same thing. When someone is not professional, you are unprofessional. Lack of product knowledge, yeah, grammar mistakes, let's say, okay, language mistakes, yeah, emotional factor, that's a very important one. I was actually looking, Shan, thank you for saying that. That's another thing that I was looking. Lack of product knowledge also, Gotham, it's there. Irrelevant information, I'll just put lack of information here. Just think on a little a bit on the soft skill side, or a little humane side. I know whatever you're telling is very contextual, and we are thinking very professionally. But in general, if you're talking about, let's say, you're just sitting with your boss, or you're just sitting with your professor, lack of listening, right? Tone of the communication, right? A few more. Anything else which you as a human being completely puts you off? Delivery of content, body posture, lot of things. Okay, so let me put delivery of content as a larger context here. Delivery of content, right? Now, stammering. Okay, well, that's a little bit of a medical, situation with somebody. But yeah, if we put off, if we look at all of these and we just try, I'll just pause it for a while. Now, I won't be able to see any more messages. So we are talking about the non-effective side. We clearly ourselves understand. Sorry, guys, for the technical hustle. Yeah. Not able to set the context, irrelevant information, lack of information, being very unprofessional, language mistakes, delivery of content, and they were furthermore, right? We already, as from our side, when we are receiving a communication from somebody, we understand all these things, right? That if somebody is not giving clarity to us, if we just broadly talk about all those things, that the person is not giving clarity to whatever it is. Now, by either providing wrong information, which is totally irrelevant to what they're trying to do. Let's imagine an email you're sending to a customer, we are talking about how effectively we can do sales with the communication. So if I'm a salesperson, if I'm trying to communicate with somebody through the email, my information that I've sent across, it's completely irrelevant, totally, lack of information. Maybe what they asked is not what I've given. Maybe I've given them extra information, or maybe I've given them information which is totally out of context. They were asking me for some other service, or they were just trying to understand something, and I gave them like let's say a plethora of information because I just felt that this is my moment, this is my last chance to communicate with them. So I flooded them with that information. I was not able to give them enough clarity so that when they received the email, they were not able to figure out and have a right context to what I asked for, right? Being very unprofessional, that sometimes what happens, and it happens even on social media platforms like LinkedIn, right? Somebody might add you up and they would automatically start a very informal conversation, right? They will be like, hey friend, hey, what you doing, how's your day been going? Or you suddenly cannot just get into or step into somebody's friendly zone, right? There is a layer of progression of how you know somebody and develop an equation with somebody, both in a professional setup or even at a personal setup. Like when you even, when somebody even start a course in a college, you can't just first day start, like patting people on the back and say, hey buddy. So there is a progression of things happening. And I have very often noticed that even on platforms like LinkedIn, which is heavily promoted as a very, very business professional social media, platform, people often add you and then they will just send you a very, very unprofessional message right away. So, we don't like it. And sometimes we don't realize that we also end up doing that. There would be language mistakes. There would be, so like when we were talking about English versus Hindi or any other vernacular language, if whatever language you are comfortable in, the idea should be that you should try to communicate in that language. If that is not allowed, let's say you are a little shorthand on English and the business setup or any setup requires you to communicate in that, you can at least try to kind of figure out the best possible way for yourself. And today we are living in a time guys, where we have all the tools accessible. So if you are a little short on, let's say on English, and you have been given a task where you have to continuously write an email or mention some context somewhere, here is chat gpt for you, right? Here there are so many AI tools, there is Google. So don't sit down with this as an hindrance and try to make it difficult for other person. Just try to figure out these tools for yourself, and guys, there are tons and tons of tools. Even I use chat gpt to quite an extent when I'm short of time and I just need something very fast. So I will just probably write up a context, put it in the chat gpt, I'll say rephrase. So that's intelligent enough to give me avoid any language mistakes, put up any grammatical errors and all, and just create a very clear content. Another thing which is important is delivery of the content, which is very, very important. We might be short of time. We might do not be having the right channels. Like say, for example, I go to a group meet because now post COVID, we have all transitioned to a very, very virtual side of the world. Even right now, this session, I would have loved to conduct this in a physical setup, but we are all doing it virtually, right? Now, if I'm coming to you guys for this session, I'm already backed up with two internet, routers. I already have my phone ready with my headset on the data that just in case there is a flip. Ronit and I have been very well aligned that in case there isn't anything happens, the people should not be suffering and they should not feel lost for a while. So we are ensuring that the delivery of our content should be at the optimum, right? So there should be always an effort from our side to make it very, very effective for the other person, right? We cannot just take it as an excuse. And you would see often this happens in setups that people will take up the calls. Let's say they're in a very important business meeting and they will take up a call on the road. There's a lot of noise happening and you're not able to figure out a soundproof situation and all. Thus the reasons, if you look in India, a lot of people are asking everybody to come back. They're like resume work, come to office and all, because we are not able to justify, working from home the way it has been traditionally done, let's say in international countries, right? So we understand, and there were some sensitive elements as well, right? Being very, very sensitive towards somebody's maybe timing and the kind of message that we're sending. There is a gender sensitivity that you have to put in. There is a level sensitivity that you have add to it. There is a cultural sensitivity you have to add to it. There is a particular kind of salutation which might be used in India. Maybe let's say hey works in India, but it probably doesn't work in a country like, let's say, somewhere in the Middle East, right? They don't like write. A lot of people will start writing dear Nidhi. Maybe that's not something which they take very comfortably. So we have to be very cautious about, and it's not something which will probably be taught to you. It will never be directly as in told to you unless you have done some damage. Is these are the things we pick up as nuances throughout our career, right? So when I was interacting with different people in different geographies, I kind of understood how culturally they are built up in terms of their communication, right? So now going back to the same thing, and please help me again, if these are the things which makes the communication non-effective, right? And we just spoke about few things. There are tons of other things. There was somebody, I think, who mentioned body language as well, which is very important. You can't be having a very wrong body language when you're talking, especially in a business setup, right? We have been told and taught to behave a particular way in an interview, in a presentation, and many other such setups, right? We have been told to be very well dressed when we are in a financial institute or a banking setup. We have been told to be very, very sharply ready when we are going for a sales meeting. Why have we been told all of those things? Because our body language matters a lot, right? The way we are, again, going back to my previous slide of P2P, right? Because at the end of the day, even if I'm representing, let's say, a company like Google or Amazon for that matter, but I have full potential to kind of make or break that deal for the company just because the way I put up myself out there, right? No matter the companies might be having the best of the product in the world, they might be most effective ones, but if I, don't do a very effective communication, I don't bring myself up to the table as a representation of those companies or let's say those banks, I will actually, kind of completely mess up the whole situation. So now, what is it that maybe let's say one thing that you really follow at whatever level of, I don't know, we don't have time to kind of introduce everybody here, but whatever whoever is here, I'm sure there is some setup that you are right now in. Either you are a student or you are having your own business, you are a self-employed professional or any job. What is that one thing? Just give me that one thing that is on the top of your communication thing that I at least make sure of this. And we'll have our 5 things, at least the top ones. I'll again open up the chat. Just help me get that one thing. Don't give me 4 5 from your side. And think through. Take a minute, think through. Trust building, Mr. Subramanya Kumar. Yes. So when you're trying to talk to somebody, you want to establish you just try that trust should be something that they develop with me. Okay. Think through, guys. Please don't rush on this. Context is set. Okay. You want that the clarity is there. Context is set. Trust again. Yes. Effectively communication. That's actually we are discussing. Sorry, guys, I have a little bad throat. But yeah, anything more like connecting previous call. Sorry, I couldn't get that one. Connecting previous call. Can you please, Mr. Subramanian, can you write a bit more on that? Like if there's a call drop, you're trying to mention problem solving. Okay, you want to when you're trying to communicate, you would want the other person, whatever. If let's say if you're actually at the end of the day, we are always trying to solve a problem, in most of the setups. But yeah, let's say we are trying to solve the problem. Active listening, very, very important. If you are, even if you're not in a let's say verbal communication setup, even if you're writing an email or chatting, I would put and make it fall under the category of active listening, right? Sometimes we are chatting just in our zone, right? We're just typing, we're just writing whatever we want to, we are doing that, we drop an email around that. We always miss out what the other person is trying to tell us. One last top most thing. Build rapport is something similar. Yes, prompt reply. That's also important. I treat subject line as the most, that's very, very important. We'll come to that as well. Empathetic. Okay, I'll pick up this one from Tanya. Very good points from everyone else, but I was just trying to be a little on the softer side as well. Empathetic. Yes, it's very, very important. Approach-based consent. Thank you. I think more or less, we are all talking around this similar line, right? We are not talking very differently. It's just that the way we are seeing communication from our side. So obviously, now look at it. if just by doing this, we already know, and there's no need for Nidhi as Mittal to come on a 1 hour session with you. If you just think through more around it and have your own list, you will be very able to categorize and say that these are the things which is complete don't. And when I was building this slide up, just to have a reference conversation talk, I was actually writing do's and don'ts. I was not trying to write non-effective and effective, but I then changed it. So we actually already know that these are the things which doesn't work for us, right? And these are total don'ts for us. And these are the things we want to do as a topmost priority. And if we just pick up topmost priority of everyone, we already have an effective way of doing a communication. We know that whatever we're trying to do with any individual, whether it's a one-time interaction or it's a long-time interaction, it's a long-term relationship with an account or whatever it might be, or a professor, you want to build the trust, right? They should be able to trust whatever you're saying. You should be able to trust back as to whatever information they're providing. Clarity, we discussed it enough here that, if there's no clarity and context setting, we lose out the entire thing. And, we lose out people because, guys, understand, we are in a time where we are exposed to so much of information all the time. Like right now, after this session, you will be exposed to another 100 sets of things. You might be watching our content, you might reading a newspaper, magazine, you might even be talking to somebody. We don't really have time right now. We're not looking at those days where we had limited things to look at. We have so much of things that if people are not very clearly and specifically telling us this, we do not have time to go back to that, right? If somebody sends me a mail and just, it's completely out of context, I'm not getting what they're trying to say, I probably genuinely would not have a time to reply back to that individual to clarify. It might directly go back to my trash, right? That is the short span of time that we are living in. Problem solving, obviously, if you're in a setup, like as a salesperson, I'm obviously trying to do problem solving every day, right? When somebody's trying to buy a service from me, what are they buying for? I mean, do they have extra money to buy it for? No. They have a problem that they're trying to get a solution from. And if I'm not able to be on the solution side, and if I'm talking on the problem side only, then I'm not really helping them. And as an individual, also, that's another thing that I've always developed, that I am not a problem talker. I'm a solution provider in any setup. Like even if I'm talking about a personal conversation, I always try to look at the things from the lens of a solution side. So if you actually help up somebody and I'll give you a very important, not important, I'll just give you one example around it. It was a very start of my career in 2004 when I mentioned to you. I was just on my desk, and it used to be an MNC that I used to work for, which I just received a phone call on my desk from a little bit of a wrong number setup. There were intercoms there. And what she asked me was that, she actually inquired me for some kind of a technical help required from another department. I happened to knew that team, and she actually reached out to me in a wrong way, right? And I just landed that information to her. I connected her to the right people on the chat and the phone call and all that stuff. It was an international call that landed up, and she eventually had a solution to her problem, right? Now, it was not something magically that I did, but when somebody has reached out to you for a particular problem, and if you are in that capacity that you can go and beyond and help them, and you have that information available to them with yourself, just lend it over, right? Active listening, which I think you all of guys are doing right now. If I would not have got the flavor that you're not actively involved, even getting 10 comments in the chat box on a Saturday afternoon difficult, but you guys are actively listening. So even if whenever you're talking, we have a lot of habit to tell what all we know, because it's very much related to what I said earlier, that we have so much of context right now available to us. We all are watching a lot of stuff, we are all reading a lot of stuff, we have so much to tell others, and in that telling mode, we obviously miss out most of the times listening. And this happens a lot on WhatsApp chat, I've realized. That is why I personally prefer to do less business conversation on the chat. I prefer phone calls, I prefer one-on-one meetings, I prefer emails. Because what happens, what the way we utilize WhatsApp as a tool is that we leave a message. We think it's a one-way communication. We just left what we wanted to. And that is why we are not wary about the privacy of people. Sometimes at 12 o'clock in the night, you will find somebody leaving a message, which you will be able to check at 8 o'clock. But that person felt that they have done their job. They told you what they wanted to, but then there is no listening, right? Maybe you wake up in a very rush mode, or you have 10 other messages of priority, and that message went down. So what was the point of leaving a message at 12 o'clock? You could have rather done it at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock when you're up, and you would rather chat with the person that say that, hey, this is what I wanted to do. And then you're in an active listening mode. But most of the times we even miss that. And I'm telling you, these are the realistic problems I face every day. So I'm not trying to build these problems up. I'm genuinely telling that this happens with me a lot. Every morning I'll have one message which dropped to me by 11:30 or 12 in the night, right? And being empathetic, which is very connected to what we are talking about, that, we're not sensitive to people's time. We're not sensitive towards what situation people might be in. We have made our channels and the communication so fast running at the moment that we want immediate response, right? Imagine the time I was talking about when I started my career, when if we send an email, there used to be a 24 to 40-hour response time. And I'm not talking about the technical problem, right? It's not an IT team that IT team will respond to a ticket. I'm talking about a general communication, that when we used to drop an email to our, let's say, even our senior who's sitting right across the corner, there was an expectancy that, the response might come to you in the next 24 to 48 hours. If there is an urgency, mention that in the subject line. Just mention urgent and important. I literally remember writing that in a bracket, urgent and important. And then people considering it because it will pop up in the email. But today, what we are doing, every message that we send, we want an immediate response. We are calling the bank. We are writing we are raising a complaint to the customer care. We are trying to reach out to anybody. If they do not respond to it, we immediately top it up with a follow up, or we'll just suddenly start losing our patience, and we'll be like, they're not responding to us. So, these are the things which are really not working well for us. The kind of ecosystem we have developed, more than the effective communication, more than the writing skills, more than the language skills, more than constructing your message in a particular way, the right kind of body language, use your left hand like this, right? Those times are gone. I've gone through all of those trainings in my professional career, effective presentation, body language, this and that. But today's time has drastically changed, because we are now living in a very, very fast paced, competitive, and heavily consumed content space, right? So we have to operate accordingly. And that is why, what I have done, yeah, a very simple approach, right? There's no rocket science to it, like absolutely zero rocket science. And I just put this across when I was trying to go back and think that, okay, when I'm talking to you guys and we're having this dialogue, what is it that if they ask me that, Nidhi, what worked for you? And what will be my immediate answer? So my immediate answer will be this. These were the only four things I've done throughout my career till date, and that helped me obviously at least have a reasonable kind of conversation, I could say confidently, that has never landed me into any kind of a trouble, and I'm always able to scale in my career, right? And I'm probably being approached by an institute like Juno to have this conversation with you. I have always tried, the first one, I've always tried to keep a very, very, very clear objective, right? We need to be sure of what we are trying to communicate. Even if I'm asking for somebody, let's say for a movie, I have an objective there. I'm trying to get a response on somebody saying yes or no for a time I'm going to spend. If I do not have a very, very set objective as to what am I telling the other person, then there is everything falling after that will be wrong, right? So whenever I'm writing an email, let's say, let me put it into a completely business context, and let's say right now, I have very clear defined purpose when I'm writing to somebody, right? There is a particular time where I spend during the day where I'm only making sales pitches. I will take 1 hour of my day and say, okay, because I'm in that headspace at that time. I just say that, okay, this 1 hour, what I'll do is I will figure out some new contacts, new brands that I want to reach out or, talk to, get business for. I put myself in that 1 hour of objective space and a very purpose driven, timeline, that this is the time where I will want to reach out and tell them about my services and then seek a response. So there's a clear objective. There might be other time where I'm trying to just be in my own space, where I want to probably write something for LinkedIn. I want to create a content where then I want, my purpose and my objective is that I have something to share today. Maybe it's not a very, very factual scientific fact, but there's something that I experienced in my life and I want to mention that out, right? Now, my purpose is when I put it on my LinkedIn, at least people find it readable. I'm not doing it for likes or impressions and all that. That's anyway part and parcel of whatever you do. There will be some bunch of people who will see it, some people will not. But the idea is that whatever I'm putting, at least if I'm putting it in a proper way, that when somebody reads it, they understand it, they find it exciting enough. So what I'm trying to just say here is that whichever communication you are drafting, or you're doing a chat, a email, a one-on-one interview, or a session, or a talk, or just a general friendly conversation, you have to be very sure of that objective. Once you know that this is what I'm seeking from this conversation or communication, you will be able to build that up. Somebody had mentioned in the previous previous slide, when we were finding out the effective and non-effective ways, the subject line is very important for me. Obviously that is very important for you, because if you are making a pitch email, then you can't just focus on that, let me just attach my presentation and let me just write to this individual. You would want that subject line to appear in the inbox in a way that there is some automatic reaction to it. right? We are all flooded with spams these days. So there is an automatic reaction to it. Each one of us, I'm sure, at least have 10 to 15 spams landing in their inbox every day, right? So you would want to stand out with that email. So that was the first thing that I always take care of, especially in my business setups, that I'm very clear that this is the purpose of my talk. The second is my structure. This is one of the most important pieces for me. In fact, all four of them are, but structure is very important. The reason being that I am a bit of a talker, right? I love to talk, and I also like to write a lot. So, but with time, even if you go to my LinkedIn, let's say 5 years back, and I've been in LinkedIn for over 10 years now, but if you go to my previous post and I have even written blogs, you will see I probably will write this much. But with time, I evolved and I understood that, okay, this won't work now. People don't have time, right? People are living in a Twitter world, uh, for example, X word. So now structure is something where I have evolved a lot. So starting from the subject line to the body that I create, my structure is very clear. There's a very initial introduction that I add. It could be depending on what medium I'm using. Say LinkedIn post vis-a-vis email. I will have an introduction statement as to not. I'm not saying that I write as an introduction is this, whatever I'm wanting to introduce the person about, right? Then there is a body piece to it where I'm very clear that this is my game. Whatever I do right here, the person either will read it or they will scrap it. So this is very important. I have to put all my facts here. I have to put all my information here. I have to be very clear of what I'm asking, what I'm looking for here. And then there is a closing structure where I have to give them a call to action. Call to action in the sense, now that's a technical term, CTA, we use it quite often. But in my head also, there is a call to action in a way. Either I want them to respond, either I want them to share something back, either I want them to take it forward, or either I'm just telling them to know about it. But there would be something that I want them to do of my message, right? So I would leave that as a closing statement, that, okay, this is it. And then I have built a little bit of a persona of my own, that how do I start the salutation? Now, even in my business setup, with the level of communication that I've built over, I usually start my emails with, hey, right? I will write, hey, Nidhi. Though we have been taught from the time where we have to write dear Nidhi, to then transitioning to hello Nidhi. And I'm not even hello, dear Nidhi, dear sir, hello ma'am. I'm coming from those kind of career days to now where I'm able to transition myself to be a little bit semi-formal. I can write like, hey, and in the end, at times I just add cheers. But this is not something I'm saying that you have to do it as part of your personality. It's something that you can develop. And you should not be very afraid and shy about that. Oh, how can I add a cheers? Cheers is about, literally cheersing. No, that's not there. It's something about that you are a very friendly person. You are a very approachable person. You have a little light-hearted approach towards the communication that you do. But it has taken me time to develop that. That's not something that I could have done in the first day of my career or something. There are two things in the chat. Let me just see. Uh, Ma'am, in the footer section, you have to mention the B address and unsubscribe button too.
Uh,
You're talking about, yeah.
yeah, it is about the email the person is saying.
Yeah, I think it must be for email marketing you're talking about. Like in the footer section, they mentioned the B address and unsubscribe button too. So yeah, these are, if you're talking about proper email marketing, like the constructed email marketing, which are very automated in nature. What I'm trying to tell you here is more personal in as to what you do as an individual. But yeah, if you're trying to create an email marketing structure and that's the email, as I mentioned, call to action button. Yeah. So yes, you have to do. So those are some of the necessary footer elements that you add. If somebody has subscribed to a newsletter or some information from you, and they do not want to continue, you have to give those things in the footnote. But Arjun, what I was trying to refer to was about your personal communication to somebody. Even in that case, there has to be some call to action that you would want the other person, like, sorry guys, let me go back. There has to be some call to action that, awaiting your response, looking forward to connecting with you over a call at 5 p.m. Monday, or, please share that document back to me, or something like that. Whatever is something as a next step that you want. Don't assume, don't presume that they have understood and they will respond to you, right? Like, there is something very contextually funny in the end around exactly the same thing I'm saying, right? Moving into the next one, just being a little wary of the time as well, guys, medium. I think throughout the conversation we had in the last 30-40 minutes, I've been talking a lot about the mediums that are there, right? Medium is very important. So like my preferred choice of medium, even after 20 years of my career, is an email, right? Because I think email gives me two, three things. It gives me the liberty to have, enough information and attach a lot of things and provide it in a very safer, comfortable environment for the individual. it allows me to give that time to that individual. They don't have to kind of right away. They're not in a chatty mode. They have that their time to absorb what I have provided. They can read through it, make their own references, go to different website, whatever they have to, download that information, see it, and then reply back to me with as much as they want to provide. So it allows me all that. And one of the most important things that it allows me to do is not step into the privacy zone of people, right? Which we sometimes do with the chat. Even on LinkedIn, you will see a lot of people start a chat with you. LinkedIn, so there, guys, there is a chat box and there is an inbox. Inbox is supposed to serve the purpose of leaving a message, as in, like an inbox email. Even that what we have on social media profiles is mostly treated like that. But sometimes what we start to do is consider it like an Instagram chat. We start to chat with them. We'll write hi. Then the other person will be waiting, okay, hi. But you're not in that setup. You've just gone to LinkedIn to do something, let's say professional, and then you are just waiting. Tell me what are we trying to do? And I'm telling you, these are the things that we do. And any fresh first connection, I don't even know that individual, but LinkedIn is a platform which allows stranger connections as well, professional setup. So sometimes you're just wondering, what are we trying to do here? Just tell me what do you want from me, and if that is of any value, and I can come back to you for something, I will respond back to you. So the depending on the choice of medium that you have, it's that is how then your objective and structure follows, right? If you're talking to somebody on a WhatsApp, and I'm not trying to say that we should not use WhatsApps or LinkedIn's and all I'm trying to say is that we should be wary about the medium we are using. Now you will see a lot of people, and this is all purely my experience, will send you heavy file links, let's say on WhatsApp, or they will send you call Zoom links on WhatsApp, right? Assuming that we are using WhatsApp on our laptop or a desktop, because many people do that. And they assume that when you click here, you will automatically go to a Zoom call. But what we are trying, but we're not realizing is we are making it is a one step more difficult process for the other person, because probably then they will copy that link, send them over the email, and then join the link, right? So whatever medium you are choosing, accordingly try to make your the reach out in a very very comfortable way for the other person. So it has to be something which is easier for them to do. And the last thing that I'm very particular about is, and I think works for me very well, and nobody probably would have come back and ever complained to me in my throughout my career that you reach out to me at very awkward times, and you disturbed me or anything like that, or I didn't receive your message and I couldn't reply back and all that stuff, is time. So I'm very sensitive about, and this is all to do with the sensitivity as well that we were talking about, being empathetic as well. We understand in what time zone they are in, what kind of setup they might be. Like we expect family people to respond at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We kind of do not give them that 1 or 2 hours of the evening with their families. We expect people to suddenly wake up to our call, message only. That 7 o'clock, we will immediately expect that as soon as they wake up, the first thing they should do is reply back to us. So timing of your communication is very important, right? Even if I translate it to a very physical one-on-one setup, very important. If there is somebody waiting for you and you landed up late, that communication time has actually been hampered. If you were not even sensitive enough to notify that individual on time, which is very important, especially if you're a salesperson, that if there is a meeting being set up and there is any kind of a communication delay, or you're reaching late or anything like that, please always top that up with a first layer of communication, in the sense of notifying that individual, right? There is a notification channel as well, where you let that person know that there is a delivery, there is a delay happening. We expect that even from the Swiggy guy, who's not even equipped probably to do that, but we even expect from that chap that if he's 5 minutes late, then he didn't tell us, right? So imagine in a business situation, you land up in a meeting late and you didn't inform the person, and you lost out on that time of thing, and you have set up the whole context wrong. No matter how good your objective structure medium, you have lost that out. So I think that is very very important. And that on top of all of it, which I had mentioned earlier as well, is something which is like your personality, something that you will come out as. All of us who are here, like 42 people on the call right now, each one of us has a something very very specific to who we are. And trust me, whether you do it intentionally or unintentionally, but the other person has actually already made up a brand image of you as to this is how you communicate, right? They have identified those non-effective and effective ways. They will never say it to you probably outrightly, maybe they might in some setups, but people have already made that choices. People know that, okay, this individual this is how they communicate. These are few things that I have to look after them. Like people sometimes make people tell them that we require it in next 1 hour, though they would not need it for 4 hours. Why would they do that? The only reason we allow that to be happening is to us is because creating that urgency, because we have always been late in our responses. So other person has already made that approach around is that because this person will always send me the information late, let me put a more urgent timing to him because I will then have the bandwidth. So whatever we have been doing from today to before, it has already made a perception around us, but we can change it to whatever we just discussed. And you yourself, maybe after the call, if you're really serious about this topic and you really came to somewhere change your communication style, right after the call you should actually sit down just with those two things, that what are the non-effective things that doesn't work for me. I'm not asking you to do it that what you do wrong, but what is it that don't work for me. Put down those 5, 10, 20, 30 things, and then what are the things that work for you, what you like and you don't like, and you will be easily able to pick it up that okay, and then be honest enough to yourself to say that okay, but I do this myself, right, and this is not I do, and just flip them. And here is your effective communication style, guys. Just in the end, just think long term. I very strongly believe even in sales or anything like that for that matter, and that is why there are some brands, if I talk about the brand world in general, there are some brands whom we just love just because the way they must have treated us, the way they have given us the information, the way they provide the information when we are at the customer service. Like Airtel, I remember, was one of the very loved brands, and I think even till date, I'm a like I have always had Airtel for ages. And till date, there is not even one single instance that I can pick up. And there might be complaints from you guys. It might be a bad network provider for you individually. But if I talk about my, experience with them, every time I go to their customer service, I had a very, very seamless experience. Even when I'm not in India, let's say overseas or anywhere. So for me, that became very synonymous to Airtel, right? The level of communication they have set up at Airtel in terms of customer service is fantastic, and that became one of my key reasons. There were opportunities for me to switch. I was in Jio. I could have shifted to Jio as well, but I decided to stick to it just because I felt I will lose that customer service, and I don't want to lose it. I'm very happy with that. There's any problem that I face, I can go to my Airtel Thanks app now. Even that is very seamless in nature, but I can just do that. So you have to think very long term, and they didn't start to do it just now. They have been doing that from day one. Like it was known for the customer service that they had. So think very long term, develop your own style, continue to evolve. What we are talking today in 2024 might not even be relevant in 2025. We didn't knew chat GPT was coming our way. 2 years back, we had not even thought in our wildest dreams there would be an AI tool which will just suddenly write copy. So today, even the person who has no idea how to write an email or maybe don't even know the language just gives a prompt. Even if you are able to even manage to write a proper prompt in chat GPT, if you say write an email to my boss about resignation, it will give you a resignation email. We are living in that time. So imagine next year there might be something totally different comes. Maybe the text to voice speech thing, voice to text speech things completely blows out of proportion. That you just talk and there is something being communicated in English or any language. So you have to continuously evolve with the way the world is changing, right? Build patience, very, very important, because you are wanting something so suddenly and you are wanting to tell the other person, but very related to what we were talking about, active listening. So just be patient about what you're trying to tell the other person, and let it sink. Let the other person have time enough to sink and absorb what you have said, and then come back with a response. And please be very, very relevant. We do many communication throughout the day. We go to a lot of meetings that we don't need to be part of. We write a lot of emails that we can avoid. We do a lot of chat things that we just can simply avoid. It could be just a phone call and stuff, but we do that. Try to reduce all of it and just try to stay very relevant as to what is necessary. So if your team member needs one email from you around a particular topic, don't flood them with 100 emails, right? They understood it. And if that's not working, the email is not working, step into another phone call or a one-on-one meeting. So stay very, very relevant to whatever you're trying to communicate. Guys, that is my whole funda of what I've been doing for the past, 20 years. And this is what exactly I was talking to you about. Just a small joke in terms of communication, that, the urgency we set up for the people, the contextual setting. And on that note of Steve, I hope you all read it. This is me signing off for right now with the chat.
Sure.
I hope this was relevant. I'll just stop sharing the screen. If anybody wants to have it, it's a very same. This is again, okay, now this is again something to do with communication. If you look at all my handle, IDs, They're all same. Like if you just know Reach Nidhi, you can actually follow me everywhere. So this was a very conscious choice. Even my email ID has been constructed that way. So this was a very conscious choice that I made just to ease out everybody else, right? It's not something which is benefiting me because I'm not following myself, but just to ease out some for someone else, that if somebody asks me, okay, where do I follow you? How do I follow? I can just say Reach Nidhi. It becomes easier for everybody. So I've been very about making it very convenient and easier for the other person more than my comfort, right? Thank you
Great.
guys. I hope it added some value.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Nidhi. It was, I mean, a lot of takeaways actually, simple things, but a lot
Yeah.
of takeaways to introspect as well. So I would like to open it up for Q&A,
Mhm. Sure.
and people can ask their question. They can raise. Okay, we already have a hand raised. So the format would be everyone, anyone who wants to ask any question can raise their hand. I'll unmute you and you can discuss it with Nidhi.
Sure. Sure.
So
Let's have a
Gaurav,
chat, guys. Let's have a
yeah,
chat. We have 10 minutes. Let's talk. Yes, Mr. Gaurav.
Gaurav, please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, ma'am, I just wanted to ask whether
Mhm.
WhatsApp is a right official mode of communication. Whether because most of the time I felt the my prospects are not happy when I contacted them on WhatsApp. They actually expected me to contact through the email. So I just wanted to know whether it is a right mode of communication. And one more question I'm having, like on LinkedIn, um, when we are trying to contact the senior executive from our prospective customer.
Right.
So whether is it okay that means most of the time their professional email ID is not
Mentioned.
mentioned there. So
Yes.
their sorry, their personal mail ID is mentioned over that
Mm-hmm.
mail. So
Right.
whether it is okay to send our sales pitch or presentation over that mail. So
Mhm.
that is my second question to you, ma'am.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Gaurav. Gaurav actually very rightly picked up, and those are the areas that I was trying to touch. See, WhatsApp is actually not the right mode of communication, to be honest. Because everybody considers, still to date, considers this very private, right? And you will even find
Mhm.
that people are very resistant to WhatsApp for a professional chat right away. If they know
Mhm.
you have developed that, you have established that relationship with them. Let's say you're
Mhm.
already in conversation with your prospect, you already have one or two emails or meetings done, and then they show that, comfort you that, oh yeah, yeah, send me over WhatsApp, or that you have that
Mhm.
bound, then use it.
Okay.
Don't use it
Okay.
at your first tool, right? It's
Okay.
definitely gonna be getting archived. People will check it
Mhm.
and archive it, right? Because see, WhatsApp business marketing has also picked up a lot. So all these brands, and our data is getting kind of shared and sold or whatever, right? Every morning, I'm sure you also, or maybe throughout the day, you at least receive one brand WhatsApp which you never subscribe for. You're like, where did I give my number? So that is already flooding our thing. So we also end up becoming one of that, right? Coming to your second question, definitely not. If somebody has, though ideally, you know what, if somebody has, because LinkedIn gives us a choice, it actually gives us a choice to either enable viewing our contact info or not. So I will give this answer in a two way, that one, if that person has allowed, that means that the person has actually probably left it open to be used, right? Because you have an option to hide it. But just giving a benefit of advantage to the person, that most of the times when we create our LinkedIn profile, sometimes we unnotice that. We don't know that we can hide it. And by virtue of a mistake, we just have it open there. So I think the first, especially if you're looking just directly for a sales prospect, you should land up into their inbox. If they have responded back, you should seek a professional ID. And at that time, let them mention that, you can use my personal one as well. Because many a time, so there are different situations in this one, that many a times people might not really have a personal ID. Let's say they're a startup founder or they're running their own boutique company and they might be using a Gmail. So it will be very case by case basis, but the best standard approach would be to reach out in the email, in the
Mhm.
inbox, and let them respond back, or at least check your message. There's another good thing with inbox, no, that you can see there's this photograph which comes up at the bottom, which makes you, that indicates that they have read your message, they've seen your message, and if they have chosen not to respond for a day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, that means you should follow up there first again, right? I hope that helped. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Gaurav. Anyone else who would like to ask any question? Okay, Srinath has a query. Srinath,
Okay.
if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Ronit. Hi Nidhi.
Hi, Srinath.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So, following on the last question,
Mhm.
you said WhatsApp is more of a private communication unless the relationship is established with
Mhm.
that person. It is not the right medium of communication. But
Mhm.
then, let's say if I'm going for a meeting and I'm not sure, and that person has not accepted my invite, and I would like to have a quick check with him. So, do you suggest SMS or should I again send him a mail? What would be your suggestions there?
Okay, so the first time when Gaurav was asking, I think he specifically mentioned about the sales pitch also. So that is what I was trying to probably avoid a bit. See, WhatsApp, obviously, it does have expanded to being not only limited to a private conversation. It has gone beyond to that, and people do communicate in a professional setup. Even I would do that because I know SMS is something which there is a larger chance of people missing it out. It's not that people do not see that but we have transitioned to WhatsApp. So I think what I would suggest is in a situation like that, initially anyway you should have done that much before. So for example, if you have sent an invite for a meeting tomorrow and you have seen by the end of the day also they're not accepted, or something which would actually made you be on the road, like you have that enough time in your kitty, you should immediately drop them a top-up note that I haven't seen you accepting the invite, and can you please confirm. If you do not receive that as well, there is a high chance that they have actually not seen your invite, right? Whether it's a physical setup or not. Also, guys, a lot of things are changing now that I have noticed this happening a lot, that people do not accept the invite. They will join the meeting, they will come to the meeting, they will be there, but they do not accept it, probably not wanting it to reflect on the calendar or whatever. So again, Srinath, it will be a very case by case situation, but my first immediate option, which I do personally, is I will send out an email asking that person that, if you're not accepted, are you joining? If, that will hamper my meeting. And the second step would definitely be the WhatsApp, because this is a little emergency situation. So I don't want to wait for an SMS to be missed out. I would rather send a note, but then it will be a very short note that, and maybe I'll probably add a little apology or something like that, that, I'm just trying to reach out to get a confirmation. Are you joining? That's it. I won't try to have a conversation completely on that. That is what I was saying. Yeah. Thank you. I hope it helped. And also, just to add on WhatsApp, guys, like in business setup, there might be times where people indicate you at the first go. Somebody will, and it happens with me also, people will just ask me that, are you on WhatsApp in this number? Or they might just say, have my number, please send me a message on WhatsApp. That means they've opened up the channel of communication. You feel free to use it because they've themselves told you that, here's my number and just ping me on WhatsApp. So that means you can do that.
Yeah, thanks, Nidhi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Srinath. Anyone else who would like to ask any question before we move to a few questions from the rapid fire round and then we close it off?
Where's my coffee? Rapid fire, where's coffee to the minute? Thanks everyone who's just mentioning good notes on the chat screen. I really hope it added a little value for you. It's a weekend. Atif
Yeah,
wants to say something, I think, Ranit.
definitely. Yeah, Atif, if you can unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, Nidhi, good afternoon. Can you hear me
Hi.
now?
Yes, yes. Good afternoon, Atif. We
Uh,
can. Tell me.
yeah, my question is regarding communications, like some etiquettes are there in the communication. I will
Mhm.
give one example so that you can properly understand what I asking.
Sure, sure.
Suppose somebody made a mistake and we directly say, oh, you have, तुमने गलती कर दिया है. But in English,
Hmm.
what exactly we say? Like in professional communication, we say, no, there is a, you can improve it. There is a scope of improvement. We don't directly say that, no, you have committed a mistake. It's not acceptable. So this is
Hmm.
such kind of communication happen, but it is not
Yes.
acceptable in a corporate communication. So how
Yes.
we can learn such kind of communication? Any source is there? Because I'm lagging in that one. How to
Hmm.
modify the communications, like directly don't means attack on their heart, say in a
Yeah.
different way.
Yeah. So, Atif, can I be very honest with you?
Yeah, sure.
Just,
Love it.
just, just be a good human being. So look at it from this lens that
So you are trying to say that there is no, like in Hindi we say how to modify it. Similarly in English we can do, right?
no. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that this is a very sensitive and a very empathetic zone that we're talking about, right? And there are things like, tell me this, आपको अच्छा लगेगा ऐसा सुनना नहीं, right? हम जो बात कर रहे थे effective, non-effective. So if you have probably, let's say, done a mistake and your boss just barges into the room and say that you have done this wrong, you would not like it. Just look at it from that angle, that what is the way that you would have liked to it. So first, we should always try to first understand, and I'll tell you the method to do it, and which I always prefer to do, that understand the reason for happening it. There would be 1 out of 100% who would make a mistake intentionally, कि नहीं आज तो मुझे गलती करनी है, I will just mess this up. There must be a reason to it. Maybe उनको knowledge नहीं है, maybe वो equipped नहीं थे, maybe कोई family situation हो, maybe something कुछ हुआ है उससे, they're not feeling well. If you get into that zone first to identify कि cause क्या था, आप जब तक कॉज पता करोगे ना, you will actually be much better in your response, that okay, sometimes you might realize that you didn't even needed to bash that person out because there was a reason, there was a genuine reason to it. And if that is a reason जहाँ पे वहाँ RCA में भी root cause find out करने में आपको लगता है it's just a story they're cooking up, it's their regular behavior, it's something very normal to them, they always do that and all, that's the time when you can get in a little stricter conversation to say, like, dude, this has been happening for a while, right? This is not something that can be done. And also now, if you have employees who are very young in nature, who are Gen Zs and millennials and all, they are extremely, extremely sensitive about it. You just cannot get into that zone. Like हम पहले सुनते थे ना कि in the US बच्चा केस कर देता है अपने पेरेंट्स पे मारने पे, अब इंडिया में भी बच्चे अवेयर हो गए हैं. Exactly the same things are happening in the corporates as well. I'm not talking about getting into legal zone or case कर देंगे, but they're very sensitive. And that is why there is so much conversation about toxic work environments, mental health and all that. Where are they coming from? They're coming up from these very day-to-day things, that when somebody comes into the office, they suddenly feel very scared कि कुछ गलती होगी तो ये हो जाएगा हमारे साथ, and then they want to go into an environment जहाँ पे it's all comfortable. So just try to understand the cause of the problem and then have a conversation with them. I'm sure वो at least कुछ ना कुछ difference जरूर ले आएगा आपके conversation में.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thanks, Satif. Anyone else? I think someone else also had raised their hand.
Tanya has raised. I don't think she dropped out or
Tanya,
she's
please. Yeah, Tanya, I have allowed you to unmute yourself. Tanya, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Hello. Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Tanya.
Very, very thank you for this session. It was an amazing session. Just loved it.
Thank you.
Actually, I had a question not related to communications, but maybe on a career prospect. What other skills with communication you would, recommend, or you would ask a student to learn, maybe who's getting started in a job field after the graduation? So what are those other skills that maybe I can focus on and be good in that? Belonging from a marketing field, like we were going through your profile when we were discussing about yours. So even you will belong from a marketing domain.
Right.
So it would be really great if you could discuss a little bit on that part. Yeah.
Okay. So, Tanya, very honestly, being savvy of everybody's time, and as you saw, it's one of my approach here. We will not delve deep into what you should be doing as a marketing profession. Please feel free to send me a request on LinkedIn, and we will chat on that separately. But as an additional skill to communication, I think one of the second biggest skills and the topmost on my career track has been the confidence. Right? You have to be very, very confident with somebody, and that comes along with the kind of communication also you're doing. Now, where does the confidence come from? Confidence largely comes from the knowledge and the information that you have, right? If you go half cooked, half baked about whatever the setup is, right? For example, even if you're sitting with a bunch of friends who are talking, some very highly authored books, and you have no idea, your confidence will just die down. You'll be like, this is not my zone. I can't talk here, right? And even if you're excellent in English, you just cannot communicate on that topic. So you have to be very, very keen learner in your life. Try to imbibe as much information as you can. And I'm not asking you to read marketing or go Philip Kotler. I'm just telling you to be aware of what's happening around in various areas, right? And carry that with a lot of confidence. So communication will go 10 steps ahead, right? So that is the second skill I will say that you should always try to, especially as a student, because there will be enough opportunities and enough people around you who will actually give you a chance to break your confidence. So don't let that happen, right? And do drop me a note in the, on LinkedIn. We will chat if you want specifically around, what exactly marketing skills you should pick up. We can have, because there are different domain areas people here, and I would just be a little sensitive on time.
All right, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I think Yashodhar had his hand.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Tanya.
Hey.
Hi, Yashodhar, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Nidhi.
Hi.
Thanks, Ronit. Nidhi, it was a great session. Like a lot of pointers really refreshes our memory and really reminds us to take care of how to communicate, be empathetic. So, right from when I started my corporate journey, when I used to start writing my emails, and today when I see after 20, 25 years, there's a sea change. You start saying
Absolutely.
hi, then say hello, then say dear, and sometimes people take offense to dear also, right? So,
Yes.
then actually I built my own way of communication. According to the person, I write a different mail for each person,
Yeah.
and yeah. So also I feel my English is good enough, but there is something still grammatically or spelling wise I do a mistake. But thanks to ChatGPT, I've been able to improve a lot.
Yeah.
People used to see that change, and it has also helped me improve my communication. Even if I write a email without ChatGPT's help,
Hmm.
people think कि मैं ChatGPT से लिखा हूँ. So that's the way
Ah.
it has improved for me, helped me a
Hmm.
lot. So, but I really now I'm listening to you. I'm more interested in knowing. Do you see what is the future evolution happening? Have you seen any trend changes? Is there anything currently started up? In the way people are communicating, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of new generations
Yeah.
which have come in. We say millennial, Gen Z,
Yes.
different names. But
Hmm. Hmm.
how can they be formal? Are they, what is the way they're communicating in? And really, can it be universally accepted? And what is it that you see
Sure.
changing in this world?
Sure, sure, Yashoda. Yashoda, you can just go on a little mute. There was some background noise, but I'll answer your question now. So, two or three things and whatever we are discussing is one of the another important things is, or whatever we refer to as a methodology, this is basically just researched stuff, right? If somebody ever told you to write a dear, it's not a method or a rule, right? It's not been engraved on stone. It's that over a larger lot of research and whatever they accumulated as a data point, they said this is what works in particular scenario, right? So that is why there is no right or wrong to even what I'm telling you. It's purely by my experience, right? And you will figure out your ways. Now, what I've seen happening a lot is that one, so Yashoda, we are coming from that time where we were told to write very formally structured. Have a bullet point. If you want to write 4 points, you cannot miss out the bullets. That's how we came to know there is a bullet, there is a left indicator, right indicator. So we were told to structure very, add a comma and all that. What I've seen these days in the happening in the mails, a lot of it is people just write it, right? They'll just add, let's say, a hashtag, like a hyphen, and they'll write. They don't really care about structuring the email a lot. And it has happened with my teams. I've seen that, I'll say, just write it this way. And like, it's okay. Like, it's like, what the fuss about it kind of a thing, right? Whatever you are trying to tell is already written. So one is that I see a lot that there will be a lot of flavor of informal writing, which is happening. But it all depends on industry and the profile you are in, because maybe in a banking industry you still can't. Even if you receive a banking email right now, you see that it's very well structured, right? There are things which are in bold because they want you to read them specifically and all. But yeah, there is a lot of flavor of informal writing which is happening. Secondly, what I've seen is it is getting dense, like it's getting crisper. Nobody has time to write long emails or provide a lot of information. Even in the additional information you're giving, let's say you're putting up a document or anything, people just want to be very, very direct and clear in the messaging. So don't clutter your email with a lot of things because you have it. Find out your ways. Even ChatGPT does this very beautifully. If you have a mail, you put that up and you write, shorten it or make it necessary. It will just give you a crux. So people are trying to write the crux because we don't have time, right? Like I read so many emails. There are so many emails goes out of my inbox, outbox, that I genuinely don't have time to write every mail a lot. So I think these are two trends that I've seen a lot happening, becoming a little informal in nature and also becoming very shorter in length in a way that be very purposeful and very direct as to what you're trying to say, right?
Great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Yashodhar. So yeah, with this we conclude the Q&A session. I would like to
Sure.
ask you a few questions without the coffee, as you
No
mentioned.
worries.
Okay.
No worries.
So, Nidhi, the first question would be, what are the techniques or practice that one can use on a daily basis? Right, you have already given us a framework, but anything that they can use on a daily basis or practice on a daily basis to improve their communication?
Read and write a lot. Or maybe not, if not lot, let's take away the word lot, but read and write. Until unless we are consuming, communication in our life. If you're talking to people, we are watching something. And when I say read and write, I'm not trying to read a book kind of a thing. All I'm saying is just consume a lot and try to express it as well. right? So watch a content, read a book, talk to somebody, figure out an article, watch a TEDx. I consume TEDx a lot. Just go for a 2 minute. If you don't have a lot of time, just go for a 5 minute talk and try to express it out in some way as well. Either create a post, write it on a, like journal is giving, why it is giving so much of an importance, because at the end of the day, you just collect your thoughts. So sometimes what happens, there might be times when you haven't written an email for a week or a 10 day, or you haven't really done that. Your expression is not there. And then you miss out. You feel that, oh, so you start to what I've realized, that there are some skills which you start to lose out over a period of time if you don't really expose them. So I think that's something that we should continue. Let's consume and also find a channel to express as well. Have your channels, whatever it could be. I'm not giving you any channels, but have a medium.
Okay. Uh, in the workplace, right, we
Mm.
all talk about inclusive environment that
Yeah.
also includes a lot of specially abled peoples, right? How to be sensitive while communicating to people who are specially abled in the
Yeah.
workplace?
Yeah. Like you already had done that, Ronit, by not mentioning disabled, by saying specially able, right? So you only learned it. Somebody told you to do that, right? Or you saw that, you picked that up. So just consider that human beings. I have never in my life had a filter of judging anybody. Like I just cannot see somebody by the disablement of any sort, right? I just see them as an individual. And I very strongly believe that every one of us has something in us. There's some talent, right? It could be anything. Maybe you're a good cook and it has nothing to do with my business professional thing, but that teaches you discipline, right? That teaches you taste, that teaches you how to make somebody happy. So it teaches you something on a business as an overall level. So I think if you just put that lens away of even thinking that this person is in a special capacity, even for that matter, even if there's a guard in your and he's fully able, but if he's doing a job, he's not, no, don't try to get back to that servant mentality kind of a thing. Everybody is trying to do a job and have an earning at the end of the day. We are just fortunate enough that today we are talking on a laptop and having this session on a Saturday, and not in the cold outside trying to make today's evening food. So we are just very, very fortunate, and we should have been very grateful about it. So I think just put that lens away, treat them as a regular individual. You have to do nothing extra them.
Got it.
Yeah.
The third question would be out here is that a lot of times when we communicate, right, it depends on that day, the mood that we are in, right? And sometimes we do become rude or we are not sensitive
Yes.
enough.
Yes.
How can one, at that very moment when they have lost their patience, right? How can they maybe, again, a very open-ended question,
Yeah.
that how can they compose themselves to communicate at that very moment in an effective or a professional manner?
Right. Hold it for a brief while. I think there would be very limited times in your life where you have to immediately do something, right? There is a super emergency unless you are in a hospital setup or something like that. But you can, and that's why you'll see doctors are very, very patient, extremely. They've been told and trained around it. But as an individual, at least you have 1 minute to yourself. Give that, just ooze out. Just step out, have a coffee, go to the washroom, do whatever, right? But just don't immediately react, because that's impulsive behavior, which even I do at times. I'm not saying that I'm the perfect one out there. Even I happen to do that. But I have over time realized that if I just give that 1, 5, 10 minutes, whatever luxury I have, it will actually change my decision. Something like we were discussing about the team thing, no? If you just flip the situation, try to see the reverse side of it, it will at least change the situation 50%. And I think that is sufficient enough, from rather than doing 100% damage, right? So the immediate reaction is always wrong
Is
most
it
of the
the
times.
same time? Is it the same thing? I mean, same way we should approach when someone also behaves rudely with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless and until we know the reason for it, right? I mean, like I'm saying, there would be I still believe there is goodness in the world, though we are living very hard times, but people don't really do things intentionally. Like nobody would wake up and think, ask to Ronit ko jaake I have to, scold. There would be something that would happen along the way he meets you. So
Right.
at least give that breather to that, that opportunity. Maybe that person had a broken car or hit by something, had a bad day and all, and just lost it. So he didn't do that one thing that we were discussing, that give yourself time, but at least you can be an example, no? That, okay, what happened, dude? Chill down. Unless somebody really gets on your nerves, then go punch him. Just kidding. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think give that time. So always try to see the flip side, is what I'll say.
Got it. On the internet, we do see a lot of inspirational stories, how people
Yeah.
come from tier two, tier three cities, and they are right now working in the
Yes.
corporate setup, right? But sometimes we forget when we are communicating with them and they are not speak as well. or at par with the way we expect them to speak in English, maybe.
Yeah.
How, at that time, how can one be empathetic while they communicate and also understand on doing the day-to-day work?
या सो आई थिंक रोनित, हिंदी में बात करने में कोई शर्म नहीं आनी चाहिए, हमारी लैंग्वेज है, हम ये सोचते ही गलत है, हमारी सोच ही गलत है कि यू नो लुक एट कंट्रीज लाइक जापान, चाइना, वो लोग बहुत प्राउडली अपनी लैंग्वेज में बात करते हैं, तो दैट इज वाई मैं आपसे हिंदी में ही बात करूँ इस टाइम, तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। और आई थिंक हम लोग सब अपनी लाइफ में कहीं ना कहीं सक्सेसफुल है, वो स्टोरीज हम इसलिए सुनते हैं क्योंकि वो आ गई बाहर, हमारी अपनी भी स्टोरीज हैं, आपने भी कुछ किया होगा, कुछ तो पढ़ा होगा मैंने भी कुछ किया हुआ है, राइट, इस जस्ट कि वो स्टोरीज आ जाते हैं तो उनको बहुत एक अलग लेंस से देखने लगते हैं, हमें लगता है कि ये अचीवर्स हैं और हम उनसे एक्सपेक्टेशन बिल्ड कर लेते हैं विदाउट नोइंग एनीथिंग। एंड इसी वजह से आप देखोगे काफी लोग हैं जो मीडिया में नहीं आना चाहते, इवन आफ्टर बीइंग वेरी सक्सेसफुल वो नहीं आते, बिकॉज उनको लगता है एक जजमेंट लेयर लग जाएगा, एक तरीका बन जाएगा दुनिया को उनको देखने का, एंड दे डोंट वांट टू डू दैट। तो यू नो सो इट्स देयर इज नथिंग, पहले तो हमें बेसिकली चेंजेस सामने नहीं लाने होते, चेंज अपने अंदर ही लाना होता है। एंड आई एम बिकम लिटिल महात्मा गांधी है, चेंज इज द वर्ड, बट ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, सीरियसली हमारे एंड से होती है गड़बड़े और वो फिर उधर बढ़ती है। तो अगर हम अभी जैसे आपने बोला और अभी को मेरे से हिंदी में टिपिकली हिंदी में क्वेश्चन पूछता, मेरे को कोई ऑकवर्ड नहीं लग रहा है, मुझे कोई शर्म नहीं आ रही इसमें, आई एम मोर कंफर्टेबल हिंदी में बात करने में, यार अपनी लैंग्वेज है, बट हम लोग वो बिल्ड कर लेते हैं कि हम पता नहीं कहाँ किसको क्या प्रूव करना चाह रहे हैं, या जजमेंट वो नहीं करना चाहिए। तो नथिंग लाइक दैट। एंड जिन लोगों की स्टोरीज आउट हैं या जो लोग सक्सेसफुल हैं वो भी ह्यूमन बींग्स ही हैं, एक अनदर लेयर ऑफ एडिशनल जजमेंट नहीं ऐड करना चाहिए, ये एक्सपेक्टेशन कि अब इनको ऐसे बिहेव करना है, आज सुबह से ये अब ऐसे करेंगे, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है,
जरूर,
इज व्हाट आई फील।
समझ में आ गया।
हाँ
अ,
जी।
अगला क्वेश्चन,
हाँ
राइट?
जी।
So we are right now interacting over Zoom, right? And sometimes
हम्म
it's very difficult to communicate the energy or the hand actions, as you mentioned in the beginning.
हम्म
How can one be as energetic or build a great rapport over digital
हम्म
mediums while
हम्म
communicating?
हम्म लाइक आई सेड, ये सेशन हम लाइव में करते तो हम अलग ही लेवल पर होते, हम सब लोग कॉफी पीने
Correct,
जा रहे होते, बट
correct.
हाँ, सो दैट मिसेस आउट। सो नॉर्मली क्या होता है, हम लोग ना, आई थिंक दिस इज समथिंग दैट यू प्रोबब्ली गाइस शुड यू नो, इज दिस इज योर एरिया बेसिकली, व्हेनेवर वी आर कंडक्टिंग अ सेशन ना, द प्री वर्क दैट वी डू फॉर द कंडक्ट ऑफ द सेशन, let it be formal and semi formal, right? Don't make it look and appear like there is something like a very rocket science thing gonna happen here, right? The more formalized we make that, we actually make everybody, the attendee and the presenter, sit in that you know that ecosystem that we have to behave in a particular way. And that is why it's also good अगर आप information share करो, like my profile is with them so they can at least see some bit of me कि oh निधि ने अभी भूटान की पिक्चर भी डाली थी, so that means she likes traveling as well, if somebody happened to see my profile. If I also have information of the people who are there, like I was asking you of the code, it gives you a little understanding that, you know, there might be people from different age brackets, from professional brackets, there could be a student, you know, whatever thing. So it just makes me a little more comfortable. तो वो जो pre setup होता है ना, I think उसमें अगर हम there are few things if we change, it might just make the situation easier. And also camera mandatory कर देना चाहिए. Just
Okay.
kidding. Because we hide behind the cameras thinking that how are we looking, somebody will take a snapshot. I don't know if somebody took mine, but it's okay. Like nobody, like seriously, nobody cares.
Got it. Got
Yeah,
it. Last two questions.
sure.
That we sometimes think in our mother tongue and then
Hmm.
translate that and then communicate in English.
Hmm.
And a lot of people sometimes stammer or sometimes
Yes.
are not able to maintain that pace. For
Yes.
those people, what
Yeah.
would you suggest so that because they are compelled to work in an environment where they have to speak English, but they
True.
sometimes are very comfortable thinking in their mother tongue. What would be your advice to them? How can they improve if they are coming from that background?
Sure. So, Ronit, I'm no language expert, so not advice. I would just say that maybe it might help because it happens to me also. And that my mother tongue is anyway Hindi, and I've been a convert educated person, so English has been very handy to me. But I think I speak a lot and fast, something that I've always been told, and I'm being very honest about it to everyone. So speak slow. You know, when you just break things in your head and you try to speak slowly about what you're saying, it will at least help you a bit, you know, bit stammer a bit less and fumble and mumble a bit less, because then you are just filtering that communication and then trying to communicate, you know, at least in a proper way. What happens once we are processing very fast, we're trying to convert it very fast, and then we're trying to talk it very fast, right? So that process is also somewhere in your control, it's happening in your brain, but this is totally in our control. So if that has happened, don't make everything rush, just speak slowly and, you know, aram aram se bata ke, एंड मैंने देखा है कई लोग ऐसा करते ही है, लाइक मेनी पीपल फ्रॉम डिफरेंट लैंग्वेज ओरिएंटेशन, they usually talk slowly that, this is what I was trying to tell you and how this is done. It's okay, you don't have to make it look very cartoonic, but just try to communicate slowly, step by step. And that is actually my communication style in general as well. If I'm sitting in a setup, I'm a very thoda sa OCD kind of a person that, disoriented नहीं होना चाहिए. I try to structure the things कि सामने वाले को मेरी बात ऐसे 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 समझ में आ जाए. तो आई लाइक टू, वो मेरे ब्रेन में ही वो ब्रेकडाउन ऐसे होता है. तो आई थिंक वो शायद थोड़ा सा हेल्प करेगा, फिर आप किसी भी बैकग्राउंड लैंग्वेज से आ रहे हो.
Got it. The last question. What are the
Sure.
books that
But we will take the question of Divya
Yes,
उसमें
yes,
answer लग
yes,
गया, but yeah,
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. What are the
yeah.
books that you would suggest for anyone who wants to improve their communication, or rather go to the next level and be an excellent communicator?
Start with whatever is easy for you. Like I started reading with Who Moved My Chicken and whatever that book is, and Who Moved My Cheese and all that. To today, I'm trying to read Arundhati Roy or Sapiens and all. So I think don't land up into what the world is telling, what people are putting on LinkedIn or Instagram, that this is the greatest book in the world. Many a times it has happened that it turned out to be not at all helpful for me. So just pick up whatever. I'm not even saying book. Read a magazine. Read an English newspaper. Read H3 Times. Watch TEDx. Just pick up a medium which you understand. That's it. I've seen a lot of people picking up English through movies. Interestingly, I was in Bhutan and you would not believe, very interesting context here. They were all speaking in Hindi and very fluently, and they're not taught Hindi at all. And I was very curious, how did you learn it? They said just by the content they consume. So they consume our music, they consume our movies and all. And I saw literally like serials running in their houses, local houses and all. And that's how they just picked up the whole language. Imagine, without anybody teaching them anything. So people have their own ways, right? So just pick up whatever is easy, then make a progression, then make a progression, and you will eventually find like the last or the saturated stage. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Divjot, I guess you have a question. If you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Nidhi,
Good
Ronit.
afternoon, Divjot. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I've taken this call from my son's laptop. So his name is Devjot, my name is
Okay.
Harmeet. So thank you very much for putting this for all of us. So I was a bit late in joining. तो मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट आपने बोला कि जो भी आपको लैंग्वेज अच्छी लगती है उससे आप कम्युनिकेट करें. तो तीन चीजें जो टॉप तीन चीजें बिजनेस कम्युनिकेशन और आजकल बहुत ज्यादा वर्चुअल कम्युनिकेशन होता है.
Right.
तो इसके लिए आपको जो टॉप तीन चीजें एक बार फिर से अगर बोल दें हमको क्या क्या काम करना चाहिए उसके लिए इफेक्टिव बिजनेस कम्युनिकेशन और वर्चुअल कम्युनिकेशन के लिए जो जो मस्ट मस्ट है. आपने काफी कुछ बताया दैट be a good human being, you have to have pointers, you need to read, write, express, all those things are there. But if as a gist you would like to say three things that would be helpful for me.
Sure, sure. So let me ask you, Amit, were you part of the initial slides by any chance at all? And or did you join like really at the end of the session?
You can unmute yourself, please, Divjot.
Yeah, so I joined after 12:30.
Okay, let me, Ronnie, just for 1 minute, just give me session rights. Because what I'll do is rather than, because mostly we have clubbed together everything, I'll just, because I'm assuming that you have missed this out. You have not seen this particular one, right?
Yeah, I have not seen. Yeah.
Okay, so being wary of everybody's time who's still holding on, I really, really appreciate it. But just to give you the crux of the thing, this is just the 4-step approach which I told everybody that, whichever way you're communicating, whether it's a virtual communication or a business, a business communication, informal, formal, whatever, right? The first most important thing is that you have to have a very clear objective. आपका purpose defined होना चाहिए. What is it that you want to talk, right? What is it that you want to share, inform, make the other person react on? So that objective is very important. Then the structure of the communication, right? Either you're writing an email, you're sending a WhatsApp message, you're sitting in a one-on-one setup, or sending a LinkedIn message, whatever it might be, there has to be some structure to it, which is easier for the other person to understand. You're not sending you're not communicating to other person to let your things out. You're wanting them to react on what you're telling them. So have a proper structure defined to it. Then the choice of the medium, depending on the kind of communication you want to do, what is it that is of importance to that other person, or what is the medium of communication between you guys, you have to choose that medium and respect the medium for its purpose, right? So for example, LinkedIn is for some purpose of communication, that you can have a connection with somebody, make them get the first introduction, then, and you want to send a lot of information then by email, then use it that way. And if you have somebody's WhatsApp number and you think that, okay, now I have an access to their life, maybe that is not the case. They've given you that number just to be connected. So whatever choice of medium is, depending on that, utilize that to reach out to the other person. And the last part was around the sensitivity that we were talking about, is the time, right? That time is of very, very utmost important, that if you're looking at communicating with somebody as to from a one-sided communication, that I have left my message with you, now you can do whatever with it, then probably you will end up sending messages overnight. You will leave emails after 8 o'clock or very early in the morning and stuff like that. But if you really want somebody to actively listen to your message, even in a personal setup, right, you would want to do things on time and be very sensitive about others' time zone, others' cultural sensitivity, what time zone are they waking up at and stuff like that. So I think overall, largely, these are four things that you look into building your communication style. And when I said your personality, doing all of it, there will be something which will become synonymous to Harpreet, you, right? That when people see a particular note, they will realize and they'll understand, oh, this is your way of doing things and this is how you communicate. And even in the wrong side as well, that if you are somebody who sends messages to people at 7 o'clock in the morning, they will know that. And maybe, they might mute you because they know that you are the one person who sends most messages in the morning. So your personality, with all the good and the right and the wrong things that you will do eventually, will become very synonymous to how you communicate to everybody. So I think this is what I have developed as a approach, and I've just put it for the purpose of conversation today, because when I went back and looked at it, I think these were the things that I was just being very careful about throughout my life, and I've evolved with time. Right, this was my last thing, that have your own style, continue to evolve with time, understand what are the things that are changing in the world, be very patient, and be very relevant to the topic or whatever you're talking about. I think Divjyoti, in the sensitivity of everybody's time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks. Last slide I have seen already, and I have seen what Ronit was asking you also.
Sure.
I think great to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
very much.
Thank you. And now I can relate to when it says 9th C, because it's your son's laptop. I was wondering why it is saying 9th C. Okay. Thank you so much, Divjyoti. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ronit. I think we can wind up now.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much, Nidhi, once again for sharing, all the very basic but very important pointers so that we can practice. Because I think to start off anything new, right, we need
Yeah.
just the simple things. And thank you for making the session very simple. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for that. And once again, thank you for giving us your time as well on a Saturday. Definitely, there must be some other plans which you have compromised and made this your priority, right? So thank you so much for that.
No, thank you so much. No other plans. When I've given time to you, that means I've given time to all of these people who are also giving time to me. So it's
Sure.
a equal barter that we have done. And I really appreciate at least 22 people are still hanging on till 1:30. So thank you, everybody, and have a fantastic week, and consume some content.
Sure.
We'll see you on LinkedIn.
Yes, thank you so much. So, Nidhi's profile has been shared on our WhatsApp group as well as on Juno's LinkedIn page. For everyone out here, I have also shared the YouTube link and the LinkedIn page links. Please do follow us, subscribe to us, and we'll see you once again next week, next Saturday, with another speaker on the topic of sales, so that your learnings on sales doesn't stop. On that note, this is Ronit from Juno School of Business signing off. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. Have a good weekend. Bye.